SouthCoast Swish.
You are either all the way in or you are all the way out. And there is no in between.
It's like if the South got something to say, that's all I got to say.
Hey, Hoops fans, we're talking origin stories and NBA basketball operations. I'm your host, Chris Dodson, and we're here with former Pelicans executive Dan Purcell. Dan, appreciate the time. Thanks for coming on to share your story. We've got a lot to get into beyond the NBA, all the way down to the youth programs that you're doing. But before we get too deep into this, can you just tell the people how they can follow along with your journey and the youth programs that you're helping lead?
Sure. I'm helping with Live On Basketball. You can go to liveon.com. That's the EYBL circuit down here in Louisiana. Obviously, it's Louisiana, Texas, Arkansas, Mississippi as well.
Yes.
So, we're just working with Randy Livingston. He's been great. He's the head coach at Newman, former NBA player. He's a local legend here in New Orleans, and it's been amazing working with him. And he's such a good guy, and he understands, and we just want to do as much as we can to develop kids that think they can take it to the next level.
Right, and you got your start with an academy program, and we can get to the kids and that in a second, because you were once a prospect of sorts. You played a little D3 ball, highly ranked team. I also need that origin story and how you fell in love with the game.
Oh man, I was a little bit of a late bloomer, I guess, at the time. I didn't start playing basketball until, I would say probably sixth grade, seriously, right? And it's late in today's terms, I guess. But, I kind of fell in love with it. And I remember being on the playground just, in Burton, Ohio. It's not exactly a basketball hotbed, but, Burton it's a really great town, and it's a lot of great people. It's always, for anybody that's from a small town, they know what I'm talking about. I think we have 900 people in the town itself. So, it's an amazing community, and it was, they really helped me fall in love with the game. And luckily I was, I man, it's one of those things. If you knew then what you know now, how much better I could have been, right? Like, I had no idea what I was doing in terms of my body preparation, lifting, diet. There was really none of that. And so a lot of what I've done from that is tried to learn from all of that and try to pass that on to the younger generations. But I was lucky enough to get on at Lake Erie College, which at the time was a D3.
Now y'all were highly ranked. You were number one for a while, made the tournament. We got those experiences in.
Yeah, coming out, I was going to say, as a senior in high school, I didn't understand the recruiting process. I didn't understand how it worked, right? There was no social media back then, so there was no Facebook even, you know what I mean? For all the, all the younger group, younger people out there that think Facebook is old, well, that Facebook wasn't even around back then. So everything you learned was from just hearsay, what your coaches would say, what, local people would say, things like that. Unless you were really, really big. I was in high school the same time LeBron James was, and, we got to experience him a little bit, and Romeo and Drew and all those guys. They obviously were so good. They didn't need to, you didn't need to be told what to do with those guys. But, that was really the only exposure I had. And, obviously going to Lake Erie, as a young guy, I got hurt my first year. I didn't play because I had to have surgery on my ankle. And then, obviously into the second year, I didn't play much. And, I'm one of those guys that when I make a decision and I put my mind to it, I'm a little hard headed, I guess. I don't take no for an answer, right? I'm going to keep doing everything I can to achieve the goal that I've set out, not only for myself, but I want other people to succeed around me. And I think that's kind of what helped me push through, because I didn't play that much. Just to be honest, I didn't play that much my sophomore and junior year. We were so stacked my junior year that it was, at my position, it was just like, I just wasn't good enough. and it humbles you to a turn to like where, what can I do to I just want to play. I don't care what it is. I remember going up to my coach, Cliff Hunt, who is an amazing human being, amazing coach. And, you know, I said, what do I have to do to play? Just tell me. And he was just like, you got to play defense. You got to dive on the floor for loose balls. You got to do things that other guys are unwilling to do. So what did I mean, I'd always been open to that. I just didn't, I had to hear it kind of. And, you know, then the whole summer I worked out hard. I actually got my body in shape. I came in the best shape I ever was my senior year. And, you know, we had a great team. We had a lot of guys who probably should have been playing Division I. And, you know, we were number one in the country, you know, in our region. We were number one in the country for a while. Like we were, you know, we got second round of the NCAA tournament, which was great. And then, unfortunately, the injury bug hit us, and you know, our starting center and our starting power forward, who were both amazing. They were huge parts of our team. They were two of the best. I mean, they were amazing. Center broke his toe. Our power forward, Darnell Campbell, he broke his hand, so the doctors wouldn't clear him to play. It was just, you know, it was one of those things, man. It's, you know, I felt like that team healthy, we probably could have won the whole thing that year. I don't have a doubt. We had great guard play. We had great players. We had great athleticism. We had Derek Thornton at the time, who was just, he was such a good young player. I mean, he's even a better person now. I mean, he was a great dude back then, but you know, just see someone like him, his growth as a human being from when he came to when he left. But yeah, I mean, it was a great experience, man. It taught me a lot of resiliency, and it made me realize that I can be hard-headed sometimes when it comes to my goals. And I think you have to be that, you know, I think you have to be, I think you kind of, if you love something enough, which I did, it was my life. Basketball is my life. You almost have to be hard-headed, because people tell you no, people tell you you're not good enough. People tell you this is the only way I see you. This is the only way that you're going to be successful in this business and whatnot. And I just, you know, I'm not a firm believer in, if you work and you ask questions and you use your brain and you don't do dumb stuff off the floor, and you don't do dumb stuff, you know, to jeopardize your goal, because your goal's more important than anything else, then you can make it. And I was lucky. I worked my way into the NBA, just, you know, and I was blessed to be, you know, close to 10 years there. And it was, you know, it changed my life. Like, I wouldn't be sitting here right in front of you, understanding how things really work. And then obviously the stuff with Sports Business Classroom, I wouldn't have been able to do that. And, you know, it's really been an amazing thing that's really humbling that not many people get to do. You know what I mean? Like, not many people get to eat that cookie on the team plane. They just don't get that.
Right. There's only so many of those jobs. I met you at Sports Business Classroom. It followed you for years because, you know, if you run a New Orleans team, I was going to know you. I'm born from home. I started covering the team, you know, in 2019. I think I got hired because Zion got drafted. Pretty easy correlation there. But I think that's why we get along so well, somewhat, at least our journey's been the same. I played D2 ball. Shoulder surgeries kind of ruined my career after 5 of them. Did lose track of the goal, and I've been honest with this story, both public, professionally, in church, at community groups, at youth programs, that if you lose track of your goal, you're really going to have to work twice as hard just to forgive yourself and work back to where you needed to be to get into the industry like I'm trying to do now. And you really got to work and grind for it. That grind's not for everybody.
Yeah, there's a bit of a litmus test that I always do when I try to figure out, does this help me further where I want to go? You know, when I'm on my deathbed, I want to be able to say that I did everything I could to achieve the things that I really wanted to in my life. And then obviously with my kids, I want to be able to give them the opportunity to achieve their goals when they figure that out. So I think it's work. The work is like almost it's just the mandatory thing, right? But it's also being smart and strategic about, because you only have X amount of hours in a day, and you got to be able to be smart enough to say what's important and what's not. You know, I know this might be a name that some people don't like hearing, but Sam Hinkie, I thought he does a great job of really compartmentalizing his time and saying what's important and what's not. We're not talking about anything on the basketball side. We're not saying anything like that. I'm just talking more from a personal from a personal standpoint, just how he goes about his day, right? I thought that was
everything that comes with it.
Yeah, and he has to say no to some things, and some things he has, he speed, like there's simple things like speeding up. If you're reading an audiobook, or if you're listening to podcast, if you're listening to this podcast right now, you speed it up to 1.5. You know what I mean? Like it's just simple stuff that if you have goals and you think you really want to do it, you have to do it. One thing I say at Sports Business Classroom every year to the scouting group is, if you want to be in basketball, you got to be in the gym. Like you have to be in the gym. It's a non-negotiable. You're never going to get into basketball hanging out at home, watching games and commenting on Twitter or X, whatever, X now, or Instagram. Yeah. I mean, it's only going to get you so far. There will be a couple guys that, boost their, profile, and they get guys that, but most of the guys who are successful that haven't worked in the NBA or been a player or been associated with it in some way, or even, high major college sports or European, they're in the gym. They find ways. They talk to people. Like basketball is a in-person sport. That's what I love about basketball. Like you can't get away with just being on the internet and being a keyboard warrior. And, you get away with, some guys will get 20,000 followers. Sure. But is that really, if that's your goal is to get 20,000 followers, cool. Then do what you do. But for me, I'm more of I want to be in the gym. If you want to be successful in basketball, you have to be in the gym. I know, Dot, I know you go out into the gym locally and you're looking at guys, you're talking to people, you're connecting. Like you're never going to connect with anyone sitting behind a desk. You're just not. And I think where some teams professionally, in college and even in high school, the ones that are super competitive, if your guys are sitting behind a desk all day, you're probably not going to be a successful team. Not being in the gym, not seeing your recruits if you're a college or, JUCO or whatever. If you're a European team and you're hunting for American players, or maybe it's maybe you're from Serbia and you're looking for Serbian players, and you're not going to get there and be successful without being in the gym. So if there's one thing that I can say is you have to be in the gym. If you're not going to be successful. Let's just call it what it is. Let's just be real. If you're stuck behind a desk all day doing stuff, you're not going to be as a successful team if all your people are behind a desk just watching film all the time. It's just not going to happen.
Right. You got to connect and network eye to eye. You have to see the guys in the gym, see if you go watch enough, you start to understand just what looks right on a certain level, what looks right on an NBA gym. What play might you see a high school or somebody doing these pro-am runs? Coach Rory, we both talked about Coach Rory a while back. I started getting back into the gym 2019, middle of COVID. He was doing those runs with Tyree Griffin, Lamar Peters. No air conditioning in the gym, but Raji over at Nickel, they all appreciated that you were in there with them, and they would talk to you more just because you're putting in that sweat equity and really getting in there, and you can see what they were doing in that gym belonged on I think Raji's going to play in Europe now. It belongs on that court in there. It was at that level. And you just have to be, you're right. You have to be in the gym. You have to put that sweat in.
Yeah, because this is a, the league and basketball in general, it's not just the NBA, but basketball in general is a really small world. And it's, what my goal is when it comes to networking, if we're going to talk about networking here as we kind of move into that, like, the biggest issue is you want the next person to say really good things about you, right? And it's not you and me having the conversation. It's how did I make you feel at the end of that conversation? And I'll be honest with you, that took me a long while to understand. Early in my career, I was so focused on what I was doing and where I was, and how I was doing that I didn't think about. Maybe I didn't have the maturity to say, how do I make other people feel after they're done talking to me? Do they feel secure? Do they feel like they can trust me? Do they feel like, they got something out of the conversation? Do they feel like they were heard? I think that's the biggest thing. Steve Schembaum, who is a motivational speaker and somebody who I really admire, he always talks about that. How does the other person take what you said? How, if you were positive in celebrating them and celebrating their wins, how do you think they're going to feel about that? And majority of the time, people are going to feel pretty positive about that. And I think that's something that I wish I would have had younger in my career that I have now that I didn't then. I think it would have, I think I just would have, my network would even be bigger than it is now. People that I trust, people that I love. There's a lot of people in this game I love. I love them as people. And sometimes it doesn't matter what you're doing on the floor or what your record is. Sometimes, like, it's okay to be a good dude too. It's okay. It's okay to look out for your players if you're a coach. It's okay to look out for your staff if you're a general manager. It's okay to embrace their opinions. It's okay to embrace their thoughts, as long as they're educated and they're, and they're respectful. I think that's how really successful teams should operate.
Right, and that's how you build cultures. They feel a bit more ownership because you've let them engage, let them give their input, and you value what comes back. And to your point about networking, yeah, I wish I had it in my days younger too. I believe I was one of the older students, part of the SBC program this year, and I tried to explain to my little group, we run the Boston Celtics, that it's kind of like dating. I wish I'd have understood it's more like dating. You'll never learn, talking. It's best to make them feel seen, and then just shut up and take what comes at you, then try and give something back that does make them feel comfortable talking to you, giving more, building that connection stronger. So yeah, likewise, I wish I'd had it then. I would tell my younger self that now. I hope anybody taking this in takes that information to it. But to get more to your personal story, and that guy who didn't maybe know all this, your first job, NBA Academy, why did you start there if that was an option, or you just took the first job available? And how do you see that program expanding? Because, Mark Cuban's been an advocate. I think we'll get there where we have teams having academies like the soccer program.
Yeah, at the time, it was a cool business model. The way that National Basketball Academy, they were kind of the first on the scene in the late 2000s to kind of build a model that was both beneficial for NBA teams and obviously the academy itself. Because obviously they're two separate entities. So, it's changed a lot in the last, 12 years, 13 years. A lot of things have changed in that arena that, obviously I'm not a part of. So I'm not sure exactly how those things are moving forward. But when I was doing it, it was a good marriage between the teams getting butts in the seats and, the business model was really cool, right? It was just, as a young guy. I also interned with them when I worked at Lake Erie. I was in Cleveland, so they had a contract with the Cavs, and they would do leagues and camps, summer camps and clinics and all that stuff. And I just thought it was really cool to be able to do basketball every single day. And I was fortunate enough, they gave me an opportunity, and I leveraged it to getting to New Orleans, and and it kind of went off from there, and then obviously got on with the team itself. So, I was very fortunate to work with them and understand how things work on that end. And then obviously you get a lot of exposure to the NBA team. And that was always my goal, is to work in the NBA. I wanted to be around the best. I think that's my hard-headedness. Like, if I'm ever doing anything, I want to do it with the best, like sports business classroom. I do it with Larry Kuhn and Eric Pincus and these guys, and they're the best dudes, right? And Dave DeFore and Bo Estes. Like, I mean, you go back to Larry's the guy. Howard Beck. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. Howard was new this year, but yeah, still, I mean, it's just amazing people, right? They're just some of the best at what they do. And I think I guess that's my thing, is I want to be around the best, because that's the only way to really be uncomfortable and get better, is when you're around the best. And it's hard to get around the best because you don't have a lot of access to it. But if you can find these little cracks and holes to get in it, and it's not even that you want anything at the end of the day. It's that, I guess, the one thing you should want is to get better. I guess that's it. I don't think that's a bad, selfish thing to have, is you want to be better. And as long as, those people know that you're not trying to take advantage of them, you don't want, a job yesterday, and whatnot. I think it's a good, relationship to have. I still have a lot of friends in the league, and, I'm friends with a lot of people that I worked with before. And, I'm so grateful for being able to have them in my life, because they all make me better, and hopefully I make them better, and hopefully we have happy relationships too. It's not just about getting better and getting better, but you actually care about them. And I care about all those guys, and I want all of them to do great because they deserve it. They deserve that.
Right. That was a couple more names for the SBC program, and they even mentioned it. It was worth the money that you pay for that program just to hear Jerry West, Kiki Vanderway, and somebody mentioned, I think it was you and maybe Howard or Bo over on the side, and somebody had mentioned, like, man, hearing Jerry West for an hour and a half or whatever it was, and Kiki for an hour, that was worth the price of admission. I said, I would say that, and it is true. But those guys actually are getting paid to listen to Jerry West. And that's something I took from the leaders of the SBC program is y'all were trying to learn not only from the students, but the other people you were bringing in. It wasn't like speaking from a point of authority. It's basketball, and we all have something to learn here.
Yeah, it's important that everybody's heard. And, I don't sit there. I know, Dave DeFore and I don't sit there, and Seth Partnow, we don't sit there and say, oh, man, we know so much more than these guys. Like, that's not how we operate. That's not what we do. And I think the thing I love about SBC, and Warren and Albert have done an amazing job. Warren Legary and Albert Hall have done an amazing job with kind of setting the foundation with Larry Kuhn. We care, and we actually want you to succeed. Like, we're setting you up to succeed if you can take it. It's, you still have to do the work, and you still have to have that, drive to be there. And you still got to have certain skills. You just can't be someone. Like, you have to have skills and add value to an organization. And I think we're pretty clear about that, but the program itself gives you so much insight and so much access to guys. I mean, you can't call Kiki tomorrow and go, hey, Kiki, let's talk for an hour. You just can't do it. It's not realistic. He doesn't know you, you know what I mean? But getting your foot in the door at SBC, not just you, but all the participants, it's been, and the cool thing is, it's not just, I love what you said. You're not the youngest guy there. There were a lot of not young people there. And I like that. I like the fact it's not just, people can sometimes put programs that are entry level educational from an MBA standpoint into, oh, they're all young people. They just graduated law school. They just graduated college. And that's not it. There's actually, I think probably half of the students in there were not just out of college or just out of law school. And I think that's the coolest thing about SBC is we see so many people from so many different backgrounds, and the coolest part is everyone's talented. Like, everybody's super talented. This was probably the most overall talent. Sorry for the other classes, but this was probably the most overall talented class that we've had. And we had 100 and I want to say 30. I would say that's about right.
130, something like that.
It was something along those lines. Yeah, made some history, but I think that's a testament to how good the program is, the quality of it. And, it starts with Albert and Warren, and obviously with Larry. Larry is, you spent time with Larry. I literally can't say enough about how great he is. Like, I love Larry. Like, I don't like my life without Larry. You know what I mean? Like, having him as a friend and a mentor and somebody that cares. It's nice to be cared for by somebody still. I'm 39 years old. I appreciate that someone cares for me. You know what I mean? Like, it's appreciated.
Yeah, life is definitely better now that I can DM Larry. I'll definitely say that.
Yeah.
But on that end, I know you're working with the youth. You say you've got a lot of friends in the league. Is that something you're trying to go back to, or you really want to build up this program and venture that you're doing now, scouting, doing more grassroots, those sorts of things, it seems like?
Yeah, I'm always, the league is always my goal, right? Because I want to win a championship. That's multiple championships if I can. I am a competitor at heart. That is my, I can't help it. I can't help who I am, right? I can't help it. But obviously that isn't in the cards at this moment, which is fine. Doesn't define me or whatnot. It's obviously I'm a competitor and I want to, but it doesn't define me whether it's that or not. I want to be known as a good father and a good person. And, I want people to know that I care for them, even though if they may not care for me, I care for them. I want them to do well. And if it comes down to going back to the league, I'd love to. Absolutely. I think I have personally, I know I have a lot of value. I have a ton of value I'm a plug and play, as they say. If we're going to use player terms, I'm a plug and play. I walk in the door and I know exactly where to go and how to start doing my job, right? And doing my role. And then obviously I know how to expand upon that and add even more value. So, for me on the scouting side, that's really with the intel, I have for me, I have intel on the whole, the next 4 draft classes, big time intel, understanding who they are, where they're from, all their backgrounds on these guys. And then on top of it, obviously the basketball part. I've learned from some of the best that are still doing it, today. And, I have good instincts, and I feel like if the NBA did call, I would love to talk to him about it. But again, if it's not in the cards, then if that's not, the way that God's leading me, then that's okay. Because I'm really happy with what I'm doing. I love interacting with future NBA players. I mean, I've been, it's if I can't, I kind of look at it this way. If I can't be in the NBA, well, you know what? I'm going to help prepare people that can go into the NBA, that have the ability to, whether that's players, personnel, scouts, coaches, whatever that is, whatever I can do to help them get to that place that they want to go, then heck, I love helping people. So let's do it. Let's just get on the ground and let's go. Whether you're a player, or you're a young kid, or you're a vet and you want to be in the front office. I mean, whatever it is, let's go, let's do it.
Right. You can still look out and see yourself sprinkled in an NBA finals. Oh, I knew that player in this team, or I knew that scout sitting there, that assistant coach. There's still some value in that. You can love it, but it also speaks to your character that you're still embracing the grind, because there are more than a few former executives that have headed to the media booth after making the big time, so to speak. They get that front office job and the extra zeros that come with a check instead of, a $30,000 AAU job or community college. They've really reached the pinnacle in most people's eyes, but you're still out there on that grind. That says a lot. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how much it says about me. It's just what I do, man. It's just what I love. I can't change. Like I said, I can't change who I am. I am a much happier person when I'm involved in basketball, because there were a few years there during COVID where I wasn't. And it was really, really hard for me. I'll just be honest with you, it was really hard. I went through a really tough time. It was the first time since I was 12 that I didn't have basketball in my life. I didn't have a practice to go to, or a meeting, or a scout, or you know what I mean? Like, it was the first time I didn't have that stuff. And I guess my first stint, I kind of didn't value it as much as I should have. You know what I mean? Like, I should have valued it a lot more. And I don't know that I did. That's just being honest. But I can't change who I am. And this is what I love. And this is what I was built for this. And I've embraced it. And I understand the challenges that come with it. And I will be out there. You know what I mean? Like, I'll be out there because that's what I love. And if you see me out there, if anybody's watching this and you see me, come on, say hi. Like, I love this stuff, man. Let's see. Like, I don't know that there are many more people that love it as much as I do. I just don't think so.
Right. No, you can see that. Some people need the external factors, the goal-oriented type stuff. It sounds like your inspirations and motivations are very much internal. Yeah, basketball is external. Family's a certain thing, but that's always been inside you. It's not like you need someone prodding you to get out of bed to go do this.
No, man. No, I'm already out of bed on my own doing this. This is just, it's just basketball's, it's meant so much to me. It's changed my life. It's changed who I was for the better. It raised my standards, honestly, being around NBA players and the coaches, like, there's a standard, right? There's just a standard every day of an approach. There's a standard of understanding where you come from. There's an understanding of where you're going. There's a lot that goes on in between the lines that nobody will ever know about, because you don't know about it until you're in it. And it's just so cool, man. I'm just so grateful. It's so cool. It's so cool to be able to do that. But obviously it's cool, but at the same time, it's like, I want to win, personally. Like, I'm here to win. I'm not here to, if it takes 5 years, it takes 5 years. Fine. If it takes 10 years, it takes 10 years. Although I don't know, NBA teams will give 10 years, but you know what I mean? Like, however long it takes, let's do it. If we're going to do it, let's go. Let's do it the right way, and that's something too. Now that I think about it, is like doing things the right way count. They do. And if anything's worth doing, it's worth doing the right way.
Yeah, you never know who's watching. I know when I first got to go to the press boxes, for the Pelicans, I'd never done college. There was a big jump and learning curve there. And you never know who's going to be watching, if they're looking basketball ops, PR, because I don't want to be stuck in the press box forever. I think I've let that be known. That's why I come to the SBC program, is at least to get out of the just writing on the game and not getting to connect. There's so much more, personal happiness that comes from being able to connect with more people in the gym. But you have to handle yourself the right way. These are professional players. You can't go in there. They have good bullshit detectors, most of them, especially when it comes to messing with their livelihoods. Some of them maybe not so much for, the off-course distractions. But in general, you can't go in there and start messing around and acting a goofball, even if you're a camera operator or an intern from college. You just can't do it. You have to go in there ready to work.
I mean, yeah, there's a standard. I mean, that's the thing, is people pay a lot of money for this too. So they expect a quality, right? And the NBA also has the league office itself has high standards for, as we should have those standards in our league. Like we should. And, I think it's people argue around the fringes. That's pretty much what people argue about in the NBA, is the fringe stuff, right? The 14th guy, the 13th guy, within the circles, or this rule, the traveling rule, it's just minutia, right? But if you take it holistically and you're like, dang, thing's in a good place, you know what I mean? Like it's in a good place right now. So I think, I just think that if you, going back to it, like you were talking about being in the press box, just you can't live your life in the press box. You're never gonna see anything. You're never gonna do anything if you're just living in the. I mean, and I'm not a media professional at all, but I'm guessing it's the same type of thing. If you're a scout or you're in the front office and you're sitting behind a desk 24/7, odds are you're not. Your team's probably not going to be very good if everybody's sitting behind a desk.
Right. If you're just sitting in the press box, there are guys who don't even go to the press conferences. They just, they walk around with their pass and they get to publish some things. And they've done that for years. It's great. There are a lot of people that like to sit in that job, especially.
And that's okay. And that's okay. Like there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not trying to say there's anything wrong with it. It's just not for me.
Right. Me neither. The legacy media where you sit there for 30 years like a Grantland Rice or a Tom Ferducci and that's all you do. That used to be wonderful because that's all there was, but now there's so much more. And there's so many more avenues into the game. You can start in the press box, but I sit down there as long as I can next to the court, talk with the players, talk with the agents, public relations, talk with the front office people, the coaches, whoever will talk with you. You never know when they might say, go talk to this guy if you want to do something like that. You never know who you'll be connected to.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that's why another important part about being in the gym is you never know who could change your life. That's one of the. I just did the Up Next camp here in New Orleans, and that was kind of the theme: is you never know who's going to walk in the gym. You never know who's going to be there that could change your life. So if you're not in the gym and you're at home eating Cheetos, odds are you're not going to meet these people. You miss opportunities.
Sadly, I was up in North Louisiana for that one. Going to get back down to New Orleans after this. The school's starting back up. Just a couple more. I mean, you've already given some advice for anyone like myself wanting to break into the league. Neither one of us can relate to those people that want to shy away from the grind. You said plug and play. I'm still learning a little bit. What would just a basic day entry-level ops employee look like? Could you run that through us? And then just tell us what's on the horizon for Dan Purcell. We'll get you out of here. We're going on a half hour.
I would say a normal day. There's no normal day. That's a beautiful thing about basketball. There's no normal days. There are quiet days and there's days when you are loud, but there's not a normal day. And I appreciate
like the day before and the day after the draft.
I mean, it's once you're in it a little bit, like I started getting the ebb and flow after about the first year and a half, I started really understanding the ebb and flow. Because in the front office, there's a lot of this, right? It's a lot of high, a lot of low. In the coaching staff, it's a lot of like, ding, you're high, and then it just drops off to nothing. And then, it's a different mindset. But I got to learn from some really good coaches, like how they deal, how they handle all that and the process and whatnot. And so it depends on where you're at, right? If you're on the coaching staff, a normal day is probably, you're looking at doing film. You're getting there probably before everyone else. You're sitting, cutting film for coaches. Coaches are going to need edits. If you're in the video room, you might get some front office edits from the GM or maybe somebody right underneath them that they need some stuff for scouting. Obviously you're going to have to, you take the film from practice and you're cutting it up immediately, things like that, and you're staying late. Like that was one thing that I did back in 09, 08. 09. I was a night logger, and I would just go into the video room at the Hilario Center from, I think it's like 8 o'clock at night till 2 a.m. And I would just be in there cutting film. I loved it. I loved every minute. I learned a ton.
That had to be a fun team to kind of get cut your teeth in with.
Yeah, it was great. It was great. It was low. I was blessed because it was low pressure. Not everybody gets low pressure entries into the NBA. I haven't seen that happen. When guys get hired, it's like you're just start going, you know what I mean? And this stuff needs to be done ASAP. You got to do this. I was lucky enough to have a year and a half under my belt of, easing my way into this thing and asking questions.
Low pressure. It's the NBA. Everything's got a certain level of pressure because of the standard we just talked about, but yeah, relatively low. Not to give anybody the wrong impression. You can just walk in and stretch out.
Yeah, I mean, but I was doing simple stuff when I started. Like I was doing, offense, defense. You know what I mean? Like I was just cutting games and offense when I first started. I was just cutting offense and defense. I was literally they call it 1-2ing, right? On sports code, 1-2. And, I was just 1-2ing games, and I would watch, 6 games a night and 1-2 them all as they're recording. And it was fun. Like I found it a lot of fun at that time. And I learned from
offensive play, defensive play. So all the offensive plays just run.
Yeah,
together.
you just clip them. Yeah, you just clip them.
There you go. Yeah.
So it was something simple, right? And I wasn't trying to make I wasn't trying to make any money. I wanted the experience. I wanted to see what everyone else saw. And I was able to do that. And I was lucky to have a low pressure situation where, I wasn't having people say, I need 9,000 clips right now. I didn't have that situation. Everything was pretty, low pressure in sense of like, I like to think I'm pretty intelligent and I can handle a 1-2. You know what I mean? I can handle hitting the 1 and 2 button when it's offense and defense. I think I can handle that,
That's like a drummer hitting the 2 and the 4.
Literally that. So it was, I learned a lot. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed every moment of it just because I was learning something, and I was, I felt like I was adding value to the team, and I felt like I was actually, in my little small way was helping the team get better. I was helping Coach Mont do his job, or, not do his job, but like helping him have an easier day, the next day, even though it may have been an assistant or something like that, but I knew somebody was going to benefit from it. So it made me happier to know that my work was, hopefully helping somebody.
Right. And they valued it. And I value you coming on the podcast again. Won't take up too much of you. We're going on almost 45 minutes now. No small thing. It's a very big thing for me. We're trying to have on some guests that really bring that value. Thanks so much for this insight.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, man. I'm a little long-winded sometimes, so I'm sorry if I was.
No, you good. You good. We don't have to clip in ads or anything. This is just all for the people to come listen to, get entertained, hopefully get informed, engaged, and anybody that wants to be inspired. Go ahead and hop in that SBC program, something like that. Get your hands dirty. Like you were saying, you didn't want to do it for pay. Just get your hands dirty with the experience. You never know what's out there for you. So I'll
get in the gym.
Yeah, get in the gym. I'm about to get back in the gym. School's starting. Back down in New Orleans soon enough. Dan, again, thanks so much. Guys, SouthCoast Swish, like, subscribe, do all that fancy things, and come back to us next week.
SouthCoast Swish.
You are either all the way in or you are all the way out. And there is no in between.